You can't go wrong with Zoe and Tall Black Guy. What happens when these two incredible creatives collaborate? You get an album like Abstraction. The album showcases the undeniable chemistry between the two musicians while inviting a whole host of their friends, including Fonte, Divinity, Omar, Josh Milan, and many more to play alongside them. The talented duo performs tonight at City Winery in Chicago and spoke exclusively to the Chicago Defender about tonight's show, lessons learned through the pandemic, and the making of the album Abstractions.
Well, I'm glad to speak to you guys personally and professionally, but I wanted to talk to you guys about abstractions and I know you guys couldn't have anticipated a pandemic after doing this album, but what was the process like to release new music and then not be able to tour and not be able to, promote it the way you normally would? What was that like?
We were trying to come up with different alternative ideas as far as like trying to make it interesting for as long as possible, just online. Making posts with music behind it, doing different video posts, teaming up with couple of your own, my man Donnie Seals and Eric Seals out of for Digifay, and getting them to do a couple visuals here and there. And Donnie drove from Chicago to Maryland where we recorded the album, and he was in the studio with us for like 3 or 4 days and got a lot of footage and all the behind the scenes. Like I think he recorded like us talking to myself from top to bottom. So just little things like that where we can kind of just give a little here, a little bit here, a little bit here, just so we can kind of keep it interesting for the folks who listen to us, and so we're not feeling like we're being a hassle on the timeline.
Yeah. I also noticed with most creatives, particularly musicians and artists, I talked to, like I was telling Tall Black Guy, I talked to Terry Hunter a lot. He went through a moment after the pandemic where he couldn't create. He didn't have nothing in him. It was, you see your money go from one way to boom in like 24 hours. So you kind of get depressed and don't know how to move. So what inspired you guys to go from, that moment, that shock factor when the pandemic hit, to actually getting to a space to actually be creative? What did it take to get you guys back into a creative space?
Well, yeah, I would say I was right along with Terry. I mean, it took me when the pandemic first hit, I was out of it for about 2 months. I couldn't do nothing. I think I drank everything I could possibly drink in that time frame, ate whatever I wanted, whatever. But the great thing about the situation and how me and Zoe came together is like we recorded a lot of that music before the pandemic was actually live and full effect. So we kind of already had the job done. I think the last session we did have was the Talking to Myself session. And then from there, it was straight up just file sharing. So I guess we kind of got ahead of the curve with that. But then, like after that, we would still like do records online. And then we probably seen each other in some, once the mandates and stuff were kind of lifted, we would kind of get up here and there and, build and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, it was really, we kind of lucked up on the fact that we got a lot of stuff done before. So it wasn't as hard as to say if we were starting from fresh in the pandemic, and then, you got to figure out, it's not the same thing as being in the room as opposed to file sharing, and a lot of that process of abstractions was done in person though, So yeah.
Yeah, we would probably still be trying to wrap up now if we had started in March 2020, as opposed to starting in May, what was it?
May 19. So 3 years.
it was easily for me, same thing. Like it was probably a couple months where it was just I ate whatever, I drank whatever. It was, my weight was going up. I'm sure my health was going left. And I think the silver lining for me personally with the pandemic was getting my health together. And those first couple months of just doing whatever, and then I go to get my physical, and my doctor looking at me like, "What are you doing right now?" And then I took that and kind of did a 180 on my health and dropped a whole bunch of weight, and started eating a little bit better. So I mean, I think, and I've said this in a couple different places, like I think the pandemic for me and for a lot of cats, especially artists, it served as like a life audit to where you just kind of reevaluate like what's needed. You trim a lot of the fat, whether it's people, whether it's vices, whether it's, just things that's not even, things that are detrimental to you hitting your goals and, whatever you want to create or whatever you want to do in the long run. And I think, since we had a lot of time to just sit in the house and kind of think and be with ourselves for a little while, like we were able to be like, yo, you know what? I need to clean up shop in here a little bit. So I think that was that's been the one like little silver lining within the pandemic, outside of it just being, our timelines looking like obituaries and, just everything changed. Like this thing has literally affected everything. So, take that little silver lining where you just kind of clean your life out, clean your finances out, clean your people out. That's kind of been the positive, if any.
It's so interesting because I've interviewed so many artists during this time, and that's the one thing that's consistent that they say, being forced to be still allowed them to get very clear. And what I found is that those artists became even more creative after coming out of, that initial shock, and were able to kind of push forward and market themselves differently, brand themselves differently, promote their music differently, and still be able to maintain their fan base. Can you talk to me about what was the inspiration behind Abstractions? Where did you guys come up with the concept for this album?
Man, yeah, I guess it was just, like going back to what Zoe said earlier, like, crazy thing, we stayed like 20 minutes away from each other in the same city, like kind of in the same state. But, just through life things happening, we didn't really get up, and we had been talking for some years, online and whatnot. And so, and the time that he had hit me up, I think, like I said, it was around May 2019. Like, yo, you want to get on some music? I was like, yeah, and that was pretty much the start of it. We made like 3 joints in one day. We like, dog, we should have did this a long time ago.
And they were crazy. Like they were super crazy.
crazy. You know what I mean? So, like the ball got rolled with that. So we end up doing, 2 tracks on Zoe's Forefront joint. And then we were still just kind of making music, and and then we started collecting all these songs, all these tracks per se before we start sending them out to artists. And then, it was just like, yo, we had like almost like it was like a ritual, like, once a week, like pretty much that whole 2019, that's all we did. Like once a week, twice, 4 times a month, pretty much most of the time.
Yep.
And
I think it created like a new excitement for making music, just on both sides. Cause it's like, the first joint we did, we was like, yo, what? Are you serious? And, from there, it was just like, yo, this is our first joint. It can't do nothing but get better. So I know for me, like I was in a creative rut just because I was going through a lot of life stuff. So, that's the reason why I even hit Terrell up, just, to see if we could collaborate and, try to, just push each other. And that's exactly what happened. And I think that, just we've always had the mutual respect has always been there We both fans of each other, and it's like, we getting together and we feeling like these two powerhouses in the studio alongside each other, and we had this, similar work ethics. We're from the same area, so it's just like this is what was supposed to happen. And I think that excitement was kind of what like really inspired the whole album. It's kind of like, I'm gonna play this and I'm gonna send it to him, and then he like, oh, you got that? All right, well, I'm gonna play this, and then I'm gonna send it back. It's almost like a competition, like a quiet competition. But quiet competition always it always gives off the best results to me.
Yeah. How did you guys determine who was going to be singing? Like, you guys have a lot of powerhouses, some powerhouse voices on some of these tracks. How did you guys determine who you wanted on the project, and how did that come about?
What would you say, Zoe? It was just, we kind of just, some tracks we knew who we heard on them, so like say the I Love the Way.
That's the
like,
one.
That sounded like an Omar. And I remember Omar had came to DC like maybe a few days prior, or something like that. I can't remember. And I remember, I think the day before that, like I had went to the gym and I heard some drums. Like, man, I'm gonna take these over to the studio and see what we could do with this, for me and Zoe. And then instantly, as we were starting to kind of construct the track, we was like, man, Omar would sound absolutely great on this. Let's say for talking to myself, would you say, Zoe, like we just kind of just sent it over to her as an idea, or what do you think?
That was one that I think I sent to Fonte first.
Okay, right.
And he was like, yo, I got, I've been working with her, she's new, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, man, she would kill this. And he sent it over and she wrote and recorded it. And I was like, yo, like who?
Yeah.
I think I'd only heard her once on the Little Brother album, the last Little Brother album, but it wasn't like in a lead role. And the same thing happened with the Connected track too. Like we did Connected, and I had just come off the Capitol Jazz cruise with Josh Milan. And, we met. He was super cool. His wife, real cool. And I remember, I think we met within like 10 minutes of being on the cruise. And, we exchanged numbers. We taking selfies and all that. And I was like, yo, man, we get all this thing and we got to work. We got to work on something because we both fans of each other. And we had this track, and I remember sending it over to Josh, and he was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna murder this. And I was like, that's what we like to hear.
Terry wrote that song on his Twitch show, and he was like, y'all got something, y'all gonna love it. And he started playing it, and the whole chat room went up like, oh, wow. It's Justice. Of course, people here love Josh Milan, but I just love some of the collaborations on this album. And It goes from things that I'm just driving to, in the summer. Connected is something that's my driving song. But, the songs with Omar, Divinity, just, through the roof. And I just really enjoyed it. What can people like me who are coming tomorrow, what can we expect from you guys' show? A lot of us haven't seen you guys perform together.
It's a party. Yeah. Our show is a party. I think Chicago would love it. Chicago has always embraced two Detroit brothers. This was the first city that I got love from outside of Detroit. So, Detroit and Chicago is always, we all did come. We the cousins that get together, in the summer when you stay at your aunt's crib and. That type of thing where y'all bickering and all that stuff, but y'all, it's nothing but love. So, it's going to be fun. And I encourage people to stand on your feet. You ain't got to sit down the whole time. I'm going to be sitting at the piano, but I'm going to feel like standing up playing on some.
I get the seats that I do because they're kind of separate against the wall where if I need to get up and move around, I can do that. I'm very strategic in how I sit in the seat.
No, it's a party show. Like, we don't want to play to no cool ass crowds. Like we want y'all in there rocking with us,
Need a lot of movement.
What are you
Yes.
guys working on? What's next for you guys individually or collectively?
Make more music.
Yeah.
That's
Yep.
make more
Yep.
music. You know.
We're we don't have any dates yet, but this year we're finishing up Cy Smith's album, and I think from there we'll probably move on to our follow-up album,
Yeah.
and yeah, just more music, more. I would say post-pandemic, but we still in this mug. But
We still.
We
more
never know.
pandemic jams.
2 years later, we never
Yeah,
know.
here we are going into year 3. More
I gotta
pandemic.
ask you, what did it feel like the first time you guys got back on stage, like in front of an audience? What
Oh,
after
man.
not performing, what does that feel like?
It was weird because I had took off a little bit before the pandemic because I was about to have the birth of my son, so I didn't really take on any shows. But when we got back on, I mean, it was great, but it was kind of overwhelming. I remember I was kind of nervous for sure before playing because we hadn't been out in so long, and this is a new format for me and Zoe, in this capacity that we were trying to put together a show. But it was well received. Basically, probably the best show we have had to date. When we did at the Kennedy Center in last July. So it was a whole bunch of fun and nerves. I'm nervous, but it was great once we got started. It was on and popping.
and they partied. They
Yeah.
partied. It was outside. Everybody was happy to be out. Everybody was happy to be at a show. So we playing. We're on the move and connected. And these mugs is they doing they line dances like I'm getting goosebumps right now. Like it was crazy. You can see it online too. So like it was super super duper fun, man. Whole lot of fun and great energy.
More than anything, more than parties, more than anything, I really miss live music. I didn't realize how much I love live music and concerts until I wasn't able to see any. I mean, it's cool to see you guys on the internet and Twitch and all these other platforms. That kind of got me through, but I was like, I want to
Yeah.
see y'all, and have that energy, that you
And
feel,
Yeah.
that's what I love about City Winery shows, because it's big, but it's small, and you can really connect to the artist, and the artists see you and you see the artist, and you get to feel that immediately instead of looking for hearts and and little chat things. Tim
Right.
always
Right.
like, it is not fun playing on a green screen. Like, it's just
No. And
At
that's
all.
kind of why we stayed away from doing the online presentation of it, just because we was like, nothing matches that energy that bounces that you give us and we give y'all as a result. And we didn't want to jeopardize that. We didn't want to compromise that. We wanted to make sure that we presented this album correctly,
yeah.
in person rather than online. I mean, I guess we can have it in the back pocket just in case, if it does get worse. But our first choice is always to be in front of the people.
Well, I am looking forward to the show. Like I said, I'm a fan. I can't wait to see you guys tomorrow because I already know it's going to be dope. I really appreciate you guys talking to us. I really, really do. And can't wait to see you guys at some point. If you see the curly head girl dancing in a little side pocket, that's me.
What's up?
With the mask on.
I'll probably have my drink in my hand. Just so you know.
I'll probably have a glass of wine up there myself. Oh boy.
All right. Well, you guys take care, and thank you so much for talking to me.
For sure. Thank you,
Daniel. Thank you so much. Bye.
All right.
Bye.